Welcome to another edition of the Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and I have been really excited about doing Texas Whiskey Month. In April, I flew down to Texas. I flew out from California, visited 5 distilleries, and really had some fantastic whiskeys, met some fantastic people, encountered some absolutely horrible weather.
Cheers.
California, we're kind of wimpy when it comes to weather. If a storm's coming in, you see it way off in the distance, the clouds come in or whatever. You get plenty advance notice. They come in, they kind of go, But Texas is like, it's clear blue sky and boom, lightning and everything else. It's like, holy camole, what's going on? It's kind of crazy. And then you think, oh, well, this day's going to suck. No, it could be an hour later or whatever. It's clear sunny sky. And you're like, where'd it go?
Yep.
California doesn't do like that.
No, so, the joke in Texas is if you don't like the weather in Texas, hang around a sec.
Right. So, but the funny thing is horrible weather for people seem to make some absolutely superb whiskeys.
Sure does.
I went in going curious. I came out going, holy cow, this is amazing whiskeys. So, in fact, I ran into Scott from Scotch Systems. We met up at Iron Root, and we were tasting 2 years out of a barrel. Some barrels with the Licorice Brothers over there, and I could not believe that what I was experiencing was only 2 years old. Because I've been to like 8 distilleries here in California, which has a much more moderate climate, not the radical fluctuations. And a lot of California whiskeys need to spend a lot more time in oak, a lot more time. They're not able to do what you can do in Texas. So anyway, for those who are watching, so I went to 5 different distilleries. One that I went to was the Crowded Barrel, met up with Daniel and Rex. You may have already seen a couple of videos we've done on their channel, my channel. Got another one coming up the day after this premiere. And just so happened, I met and ran into today's guest, Spencer Whelan from the Texas Whisky Association and the Texas Whiskey Trail. So, Spencer, why don't you say hello to everyone in the chat here?
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. And thank you so much for coming to Texas and visiting us. It does change your perspective just being down here for a while, and we're hoping to change a lot of people's perspective on what a Texas whiskey is.
So I always like to start off when I have a guest on, talk about the whiskey journey.
Yeah.
Most people have heard my story over and over again. Spent 20 years in wine, became a certified sommelier, French wine scholar, did the WSET diploma. I've traveled a bit in the wine world. I've tasted wines from just about everywhere in the world. When I was studying for the WSET diploma, one of the units was on spirits. I was not interested. Had a Macallan 12.
Yep.
And that was it. I did a course correction and got into whiskeys. I've been to Scotland, been to 20 distilleries in Scotland, 6 in Kentucky, 8 in California, and now 5 in Texas. And I might be going back again this summer. I will definitely be going back in October. I'm really excited because Texas really seems to have its own identity, character, and everything else. So tell me a little bit. So are you a native Texan or?
Yes, I am. I was born in Lubbock, Texas, up in the Texas Panhandle. And then shortly after that, I lived most of my youth growing up in the North Texas region, actually just south of Iron Root and Denison. I was in Plano. So that's kind of the North Dallas suburbs of the DFW area. So we went all the way through school there, and then went to the University of Texas and did 2 tours in the University of Texas.
So you're the head of the Texas Whisky Association as well. And then, so we're going to talk a little bit about this and the relationship between that and the trail. So what's your background, or how'd you get into whiskey?
So my background in whiskey is kind of specific to just needing a job, right? I was a college student, and I was a double major, so I was staying through all the summers in Austin, here in Austin. And when I was basically a freshman, right between freshman year, like high school senior and freshman year, I bartended at a local country club and did weddings, basically. And believe it or not, like I actually just I didn't even drink at all. Like I was just kind of like a rule follower and just wanted to make sure I wasn't breaking any rules. But I could start serving when you were 18, so I started learning bartending, and it was a good gig to work weddings. So when I came to Austin, I started working at what I hoped was a bar that would have lots of weddings too, because you could earn more tips that way. And worked at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in downtown Austin, and started working several of their bars plus some weddings. And one day, our Bev manager brought us all together and said, "Hey, we have a tequila section, and we're also going to start doing a whiskey section. And we're going to, like, this bar, the Branchwater Bar at the hotel, is going to be a tequila bar and a whiskey bar. That's going to be our featured spirits." And so we took basically 2 days on a weekend, and we went through a Scotch tasting mostly Scotch, a little bit of bourbon. And I basically got my hands on a Lagavulin 16, and that it was kind of over at that point. I was like, "That's it. I'm into whiskey."
So you actually got your foot in the door with a peated whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, I'd had what everybody has. You had your bottle of Jack, your bottle of Crown Royal. You've had those things before, and it was fine. And there's really good bourbons out there that I absolutely love. But when I had the complexity of a Lagavulin 16 and just peaty, smoky, smooth, caramel, just the amazing different kinds of flavors that you can find from a matured Scotch, you're like, "Oh, okay, this is what whiskey is." It's kind of like when you have a really good coffee for the first time after drinking the coffee that your grandparents would make in the drip coffee maker,
or what you had in the Marine Corps chow hall, in my case.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like that, right? I finally realized, oh, this is something different, and then just was just a hobby, just something that was kind of always in the back of my mind, and when I saw that Texas was starting to emerge in the whiskey culture, I was going to Whiskeys of the World and just kind of ran into a couple of the young distillers at that time. This is about 10 or 12 years ago. And what I started to see was, I mean, as a Texan, native Texan, grew up here, went to UT, worked in DC for a little while, and came back. And as a native Texan, I saw a whole bunch of stuff on the shelf that was not from Texas. It just said Texas all over the bottle. And that kind of infuriated me initially. I mean, I started to understand the business a little bit better and why people would want to do a sourced product. But it shocked me that you could call something a Texas whiskey if it didn't originate in the state. Because I had learned the rules of Scotch whiskey, and I had learned the rules of Bordeaux and Champagne and some of the other regions and how they have regional identity. And obviously the bar that I worked at had tequila and Scotch as their primary, premium spirits. And both of those things have very strict rules about locality and terroir.
Provenance and terroir, a reflection of a sense of place. And that's an excellent transition too, because so I'm a native Californian. I've been to every wine region within the state of California. Just 134 wineries, 136 wineries alone, just in the Napa Valley, all over Oregon. I've actually been out to Virginia. So California is my backyard, and that's where I started off, and then eventually kind of worked myself out to the rest of the world. Then went to with the Wine Scholar Guild, went to France and so forth. So it's kind of exciting, so Texas is your backyard, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it emerging. You're sort of there at the frontier. You're part of it because you're the founder of this association, networking with distilleries and so forth, and seeing it sort of getting more and more attention to it. So, and then again, so you said you had seen something with Texas on it, and yet it really wasn't Texas. And I just did a thing on Japan and why there's a shortage, Japanese whiskey shortage. And there's a danger there that if they start blending and bringing other things, that they lose their identity of Japan and Japanese whiskeys. So talk to me a little bit about what you think or your impression of as, because you're talking about your own turf.
Sure.
What you think Texas whiskey is sort of about, what it's unique about Texas versus, not in terms of better or less than, but what makes it distinct from other regions, and what you see going on. I mean, I only know what I read and hear about in videos. You're there with your fingers on the pulse of what's going on.
Yeah. So, let me take a step back and say that my background is actually in public affairs communications, right? So, I've worked on some political campaigns. I don't do politics anymore. I just work in issue-based public affairs communications. Worked with a lot of nonprofits, do a lot of online fundraising. That was kind of my career background up until creating the association, and we still do that. My company does that, and my company is kind of my company's called Proclaim Advocates, but we also do the Whisky Association as kind of our client, right? So this was an idea that I had 6 years ago because of what I saw from these sourced whiskeys from out of state that just had Texas all over them, wrapped in the Texas flag, Lone Star this, Gonzales, flag this, and it was just kind of frustrating to see that there wasn't, you turn it to the back and it says bottled and produced by or whatever, and I had to learn the TTB rules around that. And the internet's great for that, figuring out where things come from. So that's where it started. And the conversations that I saw coming were, because I worked in public affairs, I had seen what happened in the Texas wine industry, right? Llano Estacado made some big waves in the 80s around their wines and were winning awards. And all of a sudden Texas wine became a thing, right? But it became a thing faster than they could supply the grapes or grow the grapes. And it's just now this legislative session that they're trying to put in a 80% rule that it has to be 80% Texas grapes in order for it to be a Texas wine.
Right.
So that's 25 years.
So just real quick, I know my viewers, I'm always bringing in wine. I didn't do it. You can blame it on Spencer. He mentioned wine. He brought in wine. Yeah. So, but you brought it into the door. So there is a growing, a really serious wine scene there as well.
There absolutely is.
Surprised at how many wineries I saw. There is an event takes place every year, led by a couple master sommeliers called TexSom. It's sort of like Comic-Con, but for sommeliers in Texas. Yeah. I haven't been yet, but I really, really want to. I have some associates who are a big part of that. We meet up every once in a while or run into it at events. So I want to go back there and meet up with that. So particularly around Austin, and Dallas. So it's sort of, it would say what's going on with the whiskey world parallel, you say what's going on with the wine world there in Texas?
Well, I would say, 20 years in arrears, right? So the wine scene had a heck of a leg up starting in, really the 80s. And or late 80s really. But the point is that the wine industry in Texas boomed. There were a lot of wineries, a lot of vineyards that were popping up here and there, tours that were popping up here and there. But then all of a sudden the reputation of Texas wines kind of started to flag because a lot of it was Oregon, California grapes that were just brought in and nobody really knew where stuff was from. It didn't have a lot of transparency around it. And it has taken, a long time for it to get back to the point that you're talking about, where there is a lot of integrity. There are some amazing vineyards, amazing wines that are coming out of Texas, but that was a 30-year period, right?
Right.
And for whiskey, you kind of have to make sure that you're on the front edge of transparency because your aging and maturation process is going to be way different. Your timelines are different. Your profitability is different. And if Texas as a state is going to embrace the whiskey culture, we want to make sure that we do it the way that Texans usually do everything else, which is be honest about who we are and brag about it. Right. So,
and the funny thing is, though, and I want to encourage all my viewers to study whiskey history.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. And because everything you just said, I'm getting a sense of deja vu.
Really?
This has happened in Scotland. This happened in the United States with bourbon. This is going on now in Japan. Mm-hmm. There seems to be a pattern of other stuff being okay. So you have phylloxera in the 1800s, wipes out vineyards in a lot of Europe. It wipes out France. It hadn't hit Spain yet. Spain has the development of the railroads are now bringing up Spanish grapes into France.
Yep.
And now Bordeaux is actually Spanish grapes. And so they have to go through this process in order to protect their identity and terroir, to put in now classifications and regulations in order to protect the identity of the various regions. We're talking about Bordeaux, Burgundy, or Loire, or whatever else, so that other grapes aren't being brought in from the outside and getting the name Bordeaux.
That's right.
Because some people think short term, immediate profits, and so they don't care about the long term in terms of the reputation of the region. So they're going to bring in grapes, and the same thing's going on in Japan. And it sounds like the same sort of pattern. We saw this in Texas, and now what is then needed is these associations. There are associations in Scotland. There's associations in Bordeaux. There's associations in the Rhone that have to say, "Hey, let's in the Napa Valley, we got to protect this. We got to protect our identity and the character of our region, and say no to those who want to bring stuff from the outside and sort of water down, so to speak, what is really a true sense of our own identity and unique to our wines, or in this case, whiskeys as well."
Well, yeah, I completely agree. But for Texas, I think it's even a little bit more important in the short term to protect that identity, because you can go around the world and people can recognize a Texas flag, right? Lone Star, white, red. They understand what a Texas flag is. Name it. Like, there's maybe like 2 other states where that has, like, the state flag has like international identity, right? The shape of the state of Texas has international identity, right? The geographical boundary of the shape of Texas. People know what that is on site. The Texas has a brand as a state and as a way of thinking. Frankly, there's like a Texas mindset that kind of like New York and a few other places have it, where it's like, oh, that guy's a Texan, oh, that guy's from New York, or this is what Texas is. So when there's this great marketing opportunity to create Texas whiskey, the easiest thing to do is to capitalize on the identity without focusing on the quality and the terroir and the actual essence that makes up a Texas whiskey.
Right.
And I think Texas whiskeys have gotten a bad name because a lot of them have not been actually made in Texas. And as you saw when you came down, the ones that are being made in Texas by people who really are starting to learn what kind of whiskey Texas wants to make, those whiskeys are completely unique and completely distinct from the rest of the world.
Right. In fact, so just for those who are watching, it's I always tell people the trick to enjoying a whiskey while you have a guest on is while your guest talks, you drink.
That's right.
While you talk, your guest drinks. So they tend not to see a lot they drink. So just to let everybody know. So I have a Baby Blue. There'll be a review of this. This is from the Crowded Barrel. Really, really enjoyed this. Currently, this is a bottle pour of the Balcones single malt rum cask finish. This was one that I brought back. This is one that is widely distributed. You can get just about anywhere.
Yep.
And I tell people a lot, when you go to Scotland, it's unbelievable how much stuff is there you never see outside of Scotland. It's only available there. And I brought back 24 bottles from my last trip to Scotland. A lot of it came in.
Awesome.
A lot of it came in my dirty underwear, in my dirty laundry. So
hey, that's what the bottle's there for. Protect it.
But some of it was shipped through an auction house. Anyway,
yeah.
So I was just like so blown away. This is absolutely fantastic. So and then the Garrison brothers have the Garrison brothers here, and then back here is Iron Root Republic. So I'm going to tell everybody, if you're watching now, if you have the ability and you're outside of Texas, take a vacation. I wouldn't necessarily go in the middle of summer, although I'm probably going back in the middle of June. But get down there. It is awesome. Austin, Texas is really beautiful. Yeah. I love the countryside. Daniel Whittington and I were sneezing like crazy. The allergies were off the hook. But the beautiful, is it the Bluebell?
Blue Bonnets.
The Blue Bonnets.
Bluebell's the ice cream, but both are equally amazing.
It's really, really beautiful. But the thing is, and this is typical of Scotland, it's typical of California wineries, it's typical everywhere, is they have what they produce, which is in high enough quantity to get out there and get to your stores around the country, maybe even outside the United States. And then you got those that are such low production They're either only available at the distillery or only maybe at local bars or local stores. So I'm gonna tell everyone. Maybe I shouldn't tell people this, because I don't want a shortage. But you'll be amazed. Unfreaking real whiskeys, blowing my mind.
Yeah.
The quality of them are just absolutely superb. And what I'm liking is none of these taste like Kentucky or Scotland or Ireland or Japan or Canada or anything else. There really is a uniqueness to these whiskeys, and I'm really, really tempted to move to Texas. I love California, but I've seen it all. I'm ready to move to Texas and spend the rest of my life down there if this is what is going on down there. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no. Well, you wouldn't be the first person from California to move here from Texas. They're filling up the place here in Austin. So come on down.
So so let's talk a little bit about the founding of the Scotch Whisky Association. Excuse me, I'm Texas Whisky Association.
Sure.
I'm mixing up the SWA.
Yeah.
And then the trail. Let's talk a little bit about that and what those are all about.
Sure. So the Whisky Association is what I've been in discussions with the distilleries, Balcones, Garrison, Iron Root. I mean, many. Ranger Creek was some of the first ones I spoke with. Treaty Oak was some of the first I spoke with. All these distilleries have been around for a long time. And some of them helped create the Texas Distilled Spirits Association when, Tito's vodka and there was a lot of craft spirits moving here into the Austin area. But I always claimed, and I still claim, that whiskey is a different animal than every other clear spirit category. It's a different business model. It's, different timetables. It's everything about it's different. It's the big leagues of distilling as far as I'm concerned. If you really want to, ruin your life financially, you get into whiskey, right?
Right.
But if you can do it right, it's glorious.
In the wine industry, they say in order to make a small fortune in the wine industry, you got to start with a large one.
Yeah, exactly. But in typical Texas fashion, these guys are bootstrappers. They're all entrepreneurs. They're all around the age of 40 or younger in many cases. A few of them are working on bourbons. A few of them are working on single malts. There's a lot of ryes. There's a new rye malt that I'm really interested in. That's a malted rye that's coming out. What I love about Texas whiskeys specifically is that there is the only category that you can put them in is the territorial boundaries of our state. The rest of it is completely unique, and every distillery has different climatological regions. For Texas has about 4 or 5 climatological regions. Where you came in Austin there's a high concentration of them because the cold fronts from the Rockies kind of slide down, and then they usually hit the warm fronts of the Gulf of Mexico, and they kind of stationary front right in Austin. So what you were experiencing was that moving back and forth of hot day, cold day, rainy day, humid day, just back and forth, a lot of moving of the frontal boundaries, right? And that creates a unique aging environment in Texas, right? And right here in the Hill Country. In North Texas, they'll have heat and then snow, and the Gulf Coast, they have a lot of high humidity days, so they have different proofing. Like their proof goes down, right, over time. The rest of Texas, the proof goes up because of evaporation. So there's a lot of variations. And when I started talking to these guys about the association, I was like, all of these things are so unique that we need to protect the name of Texas whiskey. We need to protect what a Texas whiskey is. And that doesn't mean you have to be protectionary around it, but you have to have integrity around what those two words of Texas whiskey mean. And so the association was formed for 2 reasons. One is to create what you're seeing here is the seal of a certified Texas whiskey, right? So that instead of trying to teach everybody on the back of the bottle to read distilled by, produced by, crafted by, and know what the difference is between those, and if the TTB isn't going to enforce state name on the front of the bottle, then we'll put a sticker out there that says that this is a certified product, certified by our association. We will go and check and make sure that everything from grain to glass was done within the territorial boundaries of our state, right?
That sort of parallels a little bit. And again, I don't want to get back into wine.
Sure.
There, there's an organic movement. There's a biodynamic movement. There
Right.
is a sustain movement. Talk about organic sustainability, and these aren't run by the government, not or government regulations. They're sort of self-regulated and run that want to protect a certain integrity about a way of making wine. And it seems like in a similar situation, there is you want to protect the identity of the Texas whiskey because the reality is that bottom line, that's what we as a consumer want.
That's right.
We want transparency, we want integrity, and we want uniqueness. Whether you're talking Isla, the Highlands, Orkney, or Japan, or Kentucky, or whatever, we want uniqueness there, rather than it all becomes sort of a melange of the same sort of stuff.
Well, and the stories are better. I mean, a lot, as you know, you met Daniel Whittington. He runs the whiskey marketing school here in Austin, and it's a lot of whiskey is storytelling, and the stories that you tell each other when you're having a whiskey, and the stories that the whiskey makers tell you as a whiskey consumer, right? And I'll tell you a story that's not interesting. The story that's not interesting is, hey, we bought those 3 barrels and brought them over here and dumped them and poured them into a bottle and put them on a shelf.
Right.
That's not an interesting story. Right.
It's funny you should say that because, so for those who are watching, this is recorded on Thursday night. It'll be posted as a premiere on a Friday night. I have a discussion with Daniel Whittington, and we discussed this very thing, which is storytelling of whiskey. And that will, our discussion will play the day after that this originally airs. So if you're watching this later on,
sorry, Daniel.
No, it's great. No, it reaffirms a truth, a reality, and something's being recognized. Because Daniel and I very much go much more into this. This is important because basically we talk about how studying whiskey or studying wine is a lot of factoids, classifications, dirt qualifications, percentages and aging requirements, yada yada yada. But beyond all the factoids, there's a story behind it, and so we definitely get into that. And so everything you just said just sort of reaffirms that very same thing: is the importance of the uniqueness of a region, of an area, of and a style of whiskey, not only in terms of what we smell and taste, but the story behind it. That sort of provides a background and a context for all the facts, for all the aromas and flavors that we smell as well.
100%. And so just to reiterate, the Certified Texas Whiskey Program is an effort to help the consumers understand that, yeah, this is a Texas product. And this is open to every single whiskey on the market that wants to call themselves a Texas whiskey. Whether they're a member of the association or not, we welcome them to say, hey, we want to certify this product SKU. Come and see our process. Even if we don't have most of our products, there's Texas products. If we have this one, we would love to certify that product. So it's kind of like certified Angus beef to a certain extent, right? Like, I was born in Lubbock and Hereford, Texas. So if you know anything about the Hereford cattle, it's a white-faced cattle, brown body. It's very identifiable, beef cattle. And Hereford, where I'm from, is named after the cow, and they had a hard time, I'd say, branding themselves compared to Angus beef, because the Certified Angus Beef Program did a good job of saying, oh, it has to be genetically this type of breed of cow in order to be qualified as an Angus beef, right? Or certified Angus beef. And so we're taking a little bit of a page out of that with the association, but there's another rule that's really important. It's that you have to have at least one certified Texas whiskey in your portfolio that you're making in Texas, grain to glass. And by grain, we say start with grain. Not everybody can have all of their barley or they can bring grains from elsewhere. In fact, the Balcones that we're enjoying has Golden Promise malt. So that's coming from Scotland, but they start with grain, and then every step of the process until it hits the glass is done in the state of Texas, right? So that's a certified product. Even if somebody wants to take the mash or the beer from somebody else and distill it themselves, as long as that process happened in Texas, then it's certifiable, right? So those are the certified products. But then the second rule, and this is actually the more important rule of the association, is that for every whiskey product that you sell under your DSP, that you're telling the truth.
The DSP?
Sorry, distilled spirits plant.
I live in a world of acronyms for
Sorry.
plus years in federal law enforcement and plus
Yes.
for 50 gazillion acronyms, and I was just okay. DSP, what the heck is
Yeah.
that?
DSP is a distilled spirit permit, distilled spirit plant. So it's what the DSP is what you have to have in order to distill spirits in the state or wherever you are. So for every whiskey product that you release under your DSP, you have to be following the highest standards of the TTB rules. So we're not even creating new rules of identity. We're just abiding by the TTB rules that are already on the books and saying follow those to the highest interpretation. If there's a rule in there that says that you can't do something that's deceiving towards the state of distillation, then putting Texas on the front of the bottle and calling it a Texas whiskey could be potentially deceiving if the process didn't happen in the state, right? So we are interpreting that to a high order, whereas we know the TTB is pretty strapped, right? They got a lot of craft spirits to approve labels on. So this isn't a blame game, but what we are doing is saying a Texas whiskey has to be, you have to at least make one, and then every other product has to be properly labeled and identified. And you have an example right there in front of you with Eleanor from Crowded Barrel. That's an MGP product, but they brought it in and they were clear about it. They don't call it a Texas whiskey on the front. You notice that bottle doesn't have a certified sticker on it because it's not, but they're producing a certified product as well. Like they're making one from grain to glass there at the distillery that their Patreon members are working on. Right. So as long as you're being honest and as long as you're being honest in all of your whiskey products and you have at least one whiskey product that you're making within the state, then be part of the association.
Okay. So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the consumer.
Yep.
So I'm the consumer. Why should all this stuff, since I'm not producing whiskey in Texas, why should everything you're talking about be important to me as a consumer?
So for the same reason that you want to know where your dinner comes from, the same reason you want to know what you're putting into your body, where it comes from. When it comes to consumables, you want to make sure that the things that you're putting into your body are honest in what they are, right? Because if you're going to skirt the rules around location and identity and state of origin, what else are you going to skirt the rules on, right? What else could there potentially be in that bottle that you don't know about? Right. So we're always going to err on the side of transparency for the consumer, because that's better for everyone involved. It's better for regulatory issues. It's better for consumer issues. And it's better for the state as a whole. And this state, in my opinion, is too precious of an asset to the whiskey world to allow to be diluted by products that are just going to be inferior or at the very least dishonest. Now, that is not to say that there aren't plenty of amazingly good products that are sourced from out of state and come here to Texas with people who are Texans barreling them, doing their own things with them, blending them. Heather Green just came and is now the CEO over at Ben Milam Whiskey, who's now a member of our association.
And for those who don't know, so don't know the name. She's a whiskey sommelier from New York. She was running a program there. She's written a really, really, really good book. I'll put a picture of it over here. Really, really good book.
Yeah. Easy
to read book in which she teaches you, but at the same time, it's not a boring, drying textbook.
That's right.
I highly, highly recommend. And if you're a beginner just getting into learning about whiskeys, it's good there. But she also puts enough meat on the bones so that even if you're an experienced whiskey person, she's still going to teach you something new.
Yeah.
And Heather, if you happen to be watching this, I would love to do an interview with you. I'm becoming a big fan, but it's really, really neat to see that she's going down to Texas. So again, where's she at now?
She's in Blanco, Texas, at Ben Milam Whiskey, Ben Milam Distillery. So she just joined. So it's actually, as far as I can tell, the three women that run that. They have an owner, Marcia Milam. Heather Green is the CEO. And Marlene Holmes, former distiller at Jim Beam, moved down last year, and she's the head distiller there. And the beauty of that is they're producing their own stuff. And Heather's also working on lots of sourced blends and doing some interesting things in the Central Texas area just around blending. So that is not to say that if it's sourced, it's bad. That is not what we're here to say. What we're here to say is that transparency matters more than transparency matters more than deceiving the consumer towards what they should be drinking based on some kind of marketing profile.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the trail.
Yeah.
So on the thumbnail for this video, there's a big picture of the map. California is huge.
Yeah.
So just to give people a sense of scale, California is only 500 square miles smaller than Scotland. So if you take about on the size of the city of Los Angeles, if you take that and then add that additionally back into California, that's all of Scotland.
Yeah.
But California Scotland only has about an eighth of the population of California. So California is a big state, going from Mexico all the way up to Oregon. But but Texas is huge. It's an enormous state. So when you say a trail, in the Napa Valley, you have 29 that goes up to the center of the valley, and then you have the Silverado Trail, in which you go winery up the Silverado Trail.
Yep.
You think Texas Trail, you go, oh, I can go boom, 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 boom to Distilleries. I take it that's not the case.
So it is in parts, right? There are clusters where you can hit, like in Blanco, there's 3 Whiskey Trail members within 3 miles of each other, and you can hit 3 in a day, easy. I call that the Blanco hat trick of getting those 3 distilleries in a day. But you'll show this, but basically there's, the North Texas area, the Central Texas area, and the Gulf Coast area right now. We hope to add more. But you're right; it's a massive land area, right? So Winston Edwards at Balcones, the brand ambassador for Balcones, he says, "Well, it's not really a trail; it's more of an odyssey." And that's actually how we structured it. We did not structure it as here is a path, and you follow the path, and you go this. You can do that if you want to, and we may set up certain micro paths within it. Or regional paths, but the way we're setting it up is you are going to pay a membership fee on an annual basis. And on that membership fee, you're going to get to go to all of these distilleries and take tours for free throughout the year. So if you want to take multiple trips, like you are, you're taking 2 or 3 trips to Texas in the calendar year, you could probably theoretically hit all of the 15 distilleries on the trail currently. If you wanted to take down to Gulf Coast and hit 2 or 3 there, and come up to North Texas, hit 4 or 5 there, and Central Texas got like 7. So there's a lot of regional trails within the entire trail.
Okay,
but we want to give people enough time to make this a journey. It's going to take a long time to complete the trail and experience everything, and that's intentional, and we want to build for that. So the way we're structuring it is there will be a free level where you can just go in and check in distilleries and earn some trail points for every place you visit. Then there will be a mid-level, probably around the $50 level, that'll get you free tours at every place. And then there will be what we're calling our Trailblazers, which will be a higher tier. And you will not only get the points, you'll get actually triple the amount of points that you earn for visiting distilleries, but you'll also get a certified Texas Whiskey Glencairn glass. You'll get a T-shirt. You'll get a package of
What about
stuff.
a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots? Damn it!
We're working on it. Yeah, for sure. But you'll get all those things. But then here's the great thing: is that the distilleries are going to start offering Trailblazer members exclusive offerings. So you were talking about those distillery exclusives that you can only get when you're traveling into Texas. That's going to be a thing for Trailblazer members. They're going to be able to come and say, hey, I'm a Trailblazer member. I'd like to get access to get in line to this special release or come to this special master blend. I mean, you have Jared Hempstead, who's the Icons of Whiskey, Master Distiller of the Year in Waco, Texas.
He's going to be on my channel, by the way. Yeah, so we have scheduled. We're going to do another video with him. I'm really, really looking forward to
Fantastic human being, and at the top of his game. And it's just it's such a blessing that we have somebody, we have so many people like that care about this industry, care about honesty, and care about their consumers. Like you probably experienced it firsthand. These people love to deal with their customers.
Yeah, the three things that people hear about, I'm about the place, the people, and then production. Get a sense of the terroir, the place,
Yep.
meet people, the culture, and everything else, and then production. What is unique about the production of it? And so, I mean, my mind's already spinning. So what I did on this trip was, because I work at what's called a 980, so I have a 3-day weekend every other weekend, and thankfully, I don't get any bonus points or anything from Southwest for doing this, but Southwest, it's a no frills flying. I can get a late flight on a Thursday, go from California, be in Texas in 3 hours, arrive on a Thursday night, visit distilleries on a Friday, Saturday, and then fly back on a Sunday. Have an absolutely superb 3-day weekend.
Yep.
So now all I need to do is look at the Texas Whiskey Trail, figure out where the airports are, and then plan my trip accordingly in terms of entry and exit.
Yep.
In terms of where I'm going to start off. And again, I don't get bonus points or anything from Southwest, but they have amazingly affordable flights.
Yes.
To fly out there. So it's definitely a doable trip for people coming from East Coast, the left coast, the right coast, up north, to come into Texas and hit these regions.
Yeah, and that's why DFW Airport in Dallas is such a popular airport, is because it's 2 hours from everywhere, basically, right? It's at the center,
Right.
Chicago, New York, LA, Seattle. It's a center point of the country as a major hub. And so, yeah, you could fly into DFW and you could hit right now 4, maybe 5 over a weekend if you wanted to.
Don't drink and drive.
What's that?
I'm just don't drink and drive.
Of course not. No, do not drink and drive in any way, shape, or form.
And you don't have to worry about customs. You can put it in your luggage and wrap it up and take it on home. You don't have to worry about it. Although if you're coming from Canada, you might have some troubles or whatever. But other than that, so I'm so excited. I'm going back to Scotland in July. I'm going to spend a couple of weeks over. I'll be in London for a couple of days. Then I'll be visiting a bunch of distilleries. I'll be studying at the Edinburgh Whisky Academy.
Oh,
I'm going back. Yeah, I'm going back there. I visited 20 distilleries last June. Went to Islay. This next trip, I'm going to be on Campbellton, Arran, again, Speyside Highlands, and going up to Orkney. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of, I love the journey. I love exploration. I love seeing something new. And I'm just really excited about what's going on in Texas. Here's a funny thing. So here is Balcones, Baby Blue.
Yep.
So I had a next door neighbor who was from Hamilton, Scotland, which is near Glasgow. And his wife was from Waco. And because the family was grown, they couldn't afford to stay here in California. They have now like 10 kids. So they moved closer to her family down in Waco, Texas. And one time he says, "Yeah, we have this distillery. Yeah, Balcones." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, dude."
Yeah.
I was like, "Texas."
Yeah.
Who gets I be honest, Texas whiskey, whatever. That sounds nice. Whatever. And then I was at a local whiskey shop. This might have even been like a couple of years ago. And I'm looking at whiskeys and stuff pretty early in my whiskey journey. And this gal working at the shop, she says, "I've been hearing really, really great things about this." So I'm like, okay, what the hell? I think it was like $40.
Yeah.
What the hell? So I bought this. It's been sitting on my shelf for 2 years. I've been having this like, one of these days. Yeah, I gotta try it. Whatever, Texas, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I've already had this one. I'm like, wow, this is freaking nice. And then of course going down to Texas and trying. I'm gonna probably screw up the pronunciation. That's called Hechiceros from Balcones.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I couldn't bring back a bottle, but I was drinking with Daniel. Mind-blowingly awesome. I just uncorked this one. This one's freaking fantastic.
Yes.
My one concern is if I promote it too much, the prices are going to go up. Availability to become less, and I don't get the whiskeys that I want.
Yeah.
But it's blowing my mind just how good this stuff is. It's really, really awesome. Now I'm excited to get back down there and visit some more. Really, really awesome.
Well, one of the things I think, you mentioned it a little bit, the size of Texas and the size of California compared to Scotland. So Scotland has 5 distinct regions, right? I mean, depending on how you define the regions, but everybody knows the Highlands, Lowlands, Speyside, Campbelltown, Isla, Island. All of those regions can fit in a triangle that goes from Austin to College Station to Dallas.
Wow.
So that means that, like, if that triangle on a map here is like here to here to here. That's Scotland, right?
Right.
And we have all of this extra space, and all of these different climatological regions, from the arid, high plains of Lubbock to the deserts of El Paso and the Big Bend area where Marfa is and stuff like that. We're very interested to see people do some maturation out there. And then, the Gulf Coast, where you have this high humidity, high salt air content, where the aging, like I said, it proofs down in the barrel during maturation. And then the North Texas region, you have all of these different regions that are actually different regions,
right,
that are actually climatologically different. Whereas Scotland is very much the same, right? That's why you have such high. It's not the same, but you know what I mean. Like there's not a desert in Scotland.
The difference between Isla, definitely between Isla and Highlands, and Orkney peat is definitely different than from Isla peat. So there's definitely some differences there.
There's differences in the terroir for sure, but I'm talking climate, like from a climate region.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Rain, more rain. Get some rain.
40 degrees, rain.
A lot of sheep. But there's one thing. Hey, but there's one thing Texas doesn't have. You don't have haggis.
Oh, not yet. Well, you'd be surprised.
Or iron brew. You don't have any iron brew.
Yeah. If we could if we smoked it in a pit, then we'd be all about it.
Do you know what iron brew is?
Yes.
It's this orange bubblegum soda pop that's kind of strange, but
it's interesting. It's kind of like Moxie or something.
But what Texas does have is barbecue.
Yes.
So and I'm gonna say, so we have a local quality bourbons and barbecue place here locally, and barbecue and bourbons go really well together. So that's another thing I want to explore when I get back to Texas. There's not any more whiskeys, but I want to try more barbecue when I'm down there as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the whiskeys actually take on that character too, because here, let me get this real quick. Give me a second. So this is Andalusia Striker. It's their smoked single malt. Have you tried that?
I drove by Andalusia, saw the sign, but didn't have time to stop because I was on my way over to the Crowded Barrel.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. But instead of smoke, it's 100% malt, so it's a single malt. It's a single malt Texas whiskey, but it's in the tradition of Isla, except we're doing barbecue style woods in Texas for the smoke. So It's being smoked with mesquite and oak and apple woods, and so it has a lot of those same Texas barbecue flavors from the smoke that they're using to smoke their malted grains.
So I've got about maybe another 5 minutes or so. I want to wrap this up. So you guys have a website for the Whiskey Trail, and what's currently on in terms of downloading maps? Do you guys have an app yet? I love apps. Trying to get from one place to another on the phone. Do you got anything that going on?
So we're working on that now. So we just finished the pre-sale period, and that closed about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So we took a bunch of pre-sale members who are going to be trailblazers, and those folks are getting all of their items now. They're getting their glassware, their T-shirts, and their membership cards. They're getting those now. So we've paused membership for a little while until we launch the trail officially later this May. It'll probably happen right before Memorial Day. At that point, the site will change and allow you to purchase your membership tiers. And at that time, there will also be maps and things. And then we're going to start integrating into the point system and having the app and things like that. So we're working on all of those things, and we're kind of introducing them one at a time. We just added 3 new distilleries right before the end of the pre-sale period. So we added 3 new distilleries to the trail. We might add some more over the summer. So the trail is going to be growing as our membership continues to grow, and we want the experience that people have to be as good as possible with the membership levels that they have at this time. So before the end of May, there will be more information on the website. And then as you go on and go forward, there will be more and more applications for people to use.
So one thing I would recommend, and I kind of stuck my nose up at this at first, but I've really gotten, and more people get
Challenge coins.
Challenge coins. So
Yep.
This is mine. And did I happen to give you one of these when I saw you?
I didn't get one. I think my son had an accident and I had to take him home. So I had to leave right before I got to talk to you longer.
Pass like this.
Yep.
So anyway, send me a mailing address. I want to send you one of these. I've only got about 40 of these left. So I've become a big fan of these. I have this thing that holds them all. The Whiskey Vault, the Crowded Barrel have one. Theirs is way cool. I'm gonna have another series come out. Theirs has a lip on it. It kind of
carrying glass.
It helps your glass, which I mean that's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
So I would recommend getting one of those. Of course, T-shirts and hats and all that is really nice to do. But I would highly recommend getting one of these coins. It would even be cool. I would like to see distilleries have them, and it's a way of going to the trail, doing the trail, visit a distillery. After a while, you got 50 gazillion Glencairns. I don't need another Glencairn. I've got too many damn Glencairns. But these are cool. I like these. I would really like to see distilleries start doing these, have the trail do these, and then you could actually have a display where you've been to all of them and have individual really cool.
We're thinking of all of those things, and I'll just give you a little preview. Just maybe a little map on some leather that you can mount and mark your path throughout the trail.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have some really fun things. So it's not just gonna be glasses and hats and stuff. We're gonna start with that, of course, once we get our legs under us. But there will be a lot of things, not to mention just the experiences and the events that people are going to get to have by having access to these amazing distillers and the amazing releases like that rum cask single malt. That would be, if you can't get it anywhere else in the world, you might be able to get it if you're a Trailblazer member.
Alrighty, so hey, I want to wrap things up. I want to thank you very much for coming on. I mean, this is really awesome. I'm like a kid just before Christmas. I'm a Californian. I'm so excited about seeing what's going on in Texas. I love being there. I want to get back. I'm just really eager to get back there. I'm looking forward to visiting more distilleries. So again, obviously behind you is a sign with the address.
Yeah, it's TexasWhiskeyTrail.com. Pretty simple. Just www.TexasWhiskeyTrail.com. You can sign up right now to give us your membership info ahead of time so that when the sales open back up, we'll alert you immediately. And you can be among the first the second batch to get it. If you missed the pre-sale, don't worry. The prices are going to go up because we're adding distilleries and we have to onboard them and get the point system set up. But we will have that open here pretty soon. And then just sign up and let us know that you're interested, and we'll get you on the trail.
And I'm going to put a link to it down below. All right. So, hey, I want to thank everyone who's watching this on Premiere, as well as those who are watching on the replay. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, leave them down below. And I'll try to, if Spencer doesn't catch it, I'll try to forward on to him. I have a lot more questions, but I want to keep this down to about an hour. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like this, and although I'm doing Texas month, this is at the end of this month, the end of May 2019, is not going to be the last time that I do videos or reviews of whiskeys from Texas. I'm really looking forward to visiting again, and I'll do a Texas month 2020, but I will continue to update on this channel more information about what's going on in Texas. Really looking forward to. So is there any plans, maybe even having a Texas Whiskey Trail YouTube channel?
So right now we're on Facebook. We will be launching a lot of the videos that we've been producing on YouTube. We have two Facebook presence, the association and the trail. Both of those will expand their social footprints here pretty soon. We're also on Instagram on Texas Whiskey Trail. So check us out on there. A lot of the information is going on Facebook and Instagram for now, but we'll be moving into the other platforms here pretty soon. And yes, a YouTube channel will be a part of it. And we'd love to have you on as a guest when you come back down to Texas.
Cool. Hey, and I'll put a link to all those down below. All right. Hey, again, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. Spencer, thank you very much for coming.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you, Eric.
Cheers. All right. Have a good weekend.
Hey, if you like my review, be sure to check out these other whiskey videos.